Is this you? Are you feeling like a lazy slob who has nothing to offer?
Don't you know how bad it looks to oversleep on a workday?
I told you she'd say that.
Who is that?
Oh, yeah, sorry, babe. That's, Stacy?
She's my personal enabler, and she's helped me to, what did you say?
Helping you thrive and slay.
That's right, Brian. Thrive and slay.
Legally, I can't be responsible.
Feel good about your bad decisions.
Look away! Thanks, personal enabler. With personal enabler.
Welcome to the Downing Cut, where we dive into the art and craft of visual storytelling with industry leaders and creative minds. Today, we're joined by Michael Newman, a Pacific Northwest native and seasoned visual artist with over 2 decades of experience in color, calibration, cinematography, and directing visual narratives through his production company, Get Real, LLC. Yeah.
But you're closer to a lot of stuff that's also equals. I kind of clump things together when they're like, like Olympia's everything all combined. But like, so you've got stuff outside of you, but you go into in that area. I'm trying to think. There's logging pretty quick when you get out of town in Bremerton. In a couple directions, you're a kind of rural once you leave town.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I don't get up there too often, but
you're in Lacey, right? You said Lacey?
Yeah, I'm in Lacey. Yeah, I work all over Olympia, and I've got clients in Portland a lot because I moved here from Portland going on 15 years ago, maybe more.
Nice.
So I still go down there regularly for my color clients.
Yeah,
because I've been doing color consulting for, I want to say 20 years, but it's going on 25 now, since like the late 90s.
So what does that entail? Are you color correcting
that
film?
Means I come with a tool. So I started in the photo industry, and that's how I got into that. Was I worked at a photo studio that owned a pre-press house, and then was purchased by an even bigger pre-press company, and we did everything for Fred Meyers. A lot of stuff for Intel and Nike and all kinds of people, right? But Fred Meyers originally owned this company. And then it split off and became its own business before I started there. And so I came in. My dad actually was a photographer, and so I just went on a tour one day, and they're like, "Oh, do you want a job?" And I'm like, "I wasn't looking for a job, but all right." I was going to community college up here actually at the time, so I broke my lease. I moved back down there and started doing pre-press, and a lot of that would require me to fix the color.
Yeah.
So at the time I was doing everything this was like Photoshop 4, like pretty early, and it didn't seem new to me at the time, but it was a pretty early versions of Photoshop. And so I would make curves. They would correct the color for each printer. And we had, Hewlett Packard was one of our customers. And so we'd take a picture for them and we'd make it print perfect. And then they'd be like, "Oh, that's great, but it's a prototype printer. It's a little bit different now." And I'd print out my picture and it'd be completely different. So I'd make a set of curves. I'd make the picture look good on the screen, and then I'd make curves that make it good on the printer. Okay. And then I could just change that set of curves when the printer came out. And I eventually turned that into ICC profiles, where I'd measure a whole bunch of patches. And then we lost Fred Meyers as a client after working with them for 30 years or whatever. And they didn't have any plan to replace that customer. So they just laid off like 80% of the staff. And so I started working for somebody that had left already, and their clients that were also photographers at different photo studios, and would basically and calibrate their screen. I'd put a measurement tool on the screen. I'd get the color right there. And then I would measure the print and I'd make that match. And they say, "Well, does it make this match this?" And I'm like, "Well, really, you're making everything match this common standard."
Yep. So
that it could go to anybody's screen or anybody's printer. And I did fine art reproduction. I got into that, and I'd work for random people like architecture companies.
Nice.
If they were big enough to have like designs they cared about, like I want this certain color to come through, they would pay me to come in and fix the screen and the prints and film scanning. I did film scanning too. Not a lot of that around anymore.
Yeah.
So
but
yeah,
Get Real's different. That's your
Yes.
film.
So I'm actually running
business.
2 businesses.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't shut the other business down. I just kind of stopped marketing it, and people still call me.
Wow.
But I find that, you know, without marketing myself, I'm kind of not. I don't really have any customers in Olympia. It's too small.
Okay.
But I'll have people up in Seattle, the big companies up there. You know, whatever, shoe companies and who knows what. Just randomly, a friend of a friend, somebody will know me or whatever, and they'll call me, and I'll go out for a day and consult on color calibration.
You're consulting on digital printers now, then, right?
Yeah,
Like
and most of what I do is actually about the screen and the camera and workflow, and I do printing. So there are like fine art printing companies still that sell prints.
Yeah.
But I just, you know, I'm not chasing that business anymore. Printing became so, you know, like pre-press is not I mean, there's still things being printed, so the demand didn't go away, but the demand went down.
You're gonna laugh when I tell you this. I did an AAS degree at Seattle Central for publishing arts, and that's exactly what we learned: pre-press,
Yep,
inking the printers, and I led towards the digital side because I didn't want to work in a manual side of inking presses and doing all that stuff. And there's still, like, I think it was Rotary. There's a big, huge printing press, I think, in Kent. But I learned all that, color correction and all that type of thing. And I really did it because I wanted to be a graphic designer, but I don't draw. And it was just a way in to learn the software, Adobe Creative Suite, and understand all the nuances and stuff. And that's what kind of launched me. And then in college is when I got asked to act as a background person. And that just kind of turned that spark on for me. And I was like, oh, I could do this. And that was it. I was off to the races after that. So
that's cool.
So, like, this stuff totally makes 100% total
so
sense to me.
I kind of got bored doing it. I've been doing it for a long time, and you know, it just I wasn't that motivated to, you know, help somebody sell a product. You know, especially the massive corporations. Like, I'm just a piece in a cog in a wheel. Whatever. Not mess up that saying, but whatever. And I was kind of just looking for something new to do. I did a lot of just kind of camera work and was playing with a lot of things. I developed a whole style of action photography, that just taking pictures of my kid at bike jumps. And then I started doing skate pictures and things like that, and did that for a while.
Interesting.
And just played with a lot of things for a few years. I read a book called The Creative Calling by Chase Jarvis. He owns Creative Live. Anyways, it was a really good book, and it talks about kind of finding your, you know, how to. It was a very practical book about how to take your skills and find what you know, find your style and a whole bunch of things, and how to market it and like kind of things like that. And you know, basically, you just have to try a lot of things. It's kind of the thing, like make things every day, make something new every day. So I was taking pictures, you know, of the little glass ball that everybody does, and the, you know, the generic kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's not it. And I started doing video, and did more and more of that. I was filming myself on remodeling a boat that I purchased, which I'm still in the middle of, almost, you know, 8 years later. It's going to be long-term goal is as a mobile film, you know, a mobile studio.
Oh, okay.
And so it could basically go anywhere in the world. And it's a sailboat, but it has a large flat deck, which is a little bit unusual. So you could have, you know, entire camera crew on the deck, and be able to load gear on and off and that kind of thing. So it's still, I have not used it for any film stuff yet, but I was filming myself with multiple cameras doing that process. And that kind of, you know, I got better to be like, oh, that's just the back of my head for 5 hours. Like, that doesn't work. And I got hired to do a couple little things. A client that does hair cutting and makeup, that I calibrated her color. She'd been working on it for years and still working for her. But then a big thing changed when I randomly ran into people. Actually, my girlfriend introduced me to some people that were building micro houses for the city of Olympia. And they built, I think we ended up building 80 of them. They had a contract for, I don't remember, 60 or something like that. And it was a for-profit business, but basically they made no money. You know, they had $100,000 budget and they spent $100,000 and a year of their time. but I made I filmed their process of how to build it, because they'd made a factory line to build all these parts.
Yeah.
So they were SIP panels, which are structurally reinforced. It's basically just 2 pieces of plywood with foam in between. And they use those huge concrete divider, or like, if they have like to block off a road, they drop that huge, massive concrete block. They put 2 of those onto big, huge things, and they lowered that onto each panel and compressed them. And then they had them all set up in little like jigs so the pieces could get cut, so that people could mass produce these. And so I made a whole video showing the little process of doing that and trying to get volunteers. And then I was so stoked to help that I just kept showing up and painting the houses and, doing that kind of thing. And I'm like, oh, this is what I want to do. So then I started working on videos to market nonprofits that were doing housing.
Okay.
And that is what turned into Get Real.
Yeah. That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
You answered my question on how did your journey start, and you pretty much answered that.
There you go.
Let me ask you this. You've been on film sets and you've seen actors, and I ask everyone this question, and I just want your opinion, your perception. What makes a good actor? What sets a good actor, an exceptional actor, apart from all the others?
They could really get into their, and I'm a camera person, so I'm kind of the last person to ask this question. But as I'm going into production, because I work in the camera department, but as a company, I produce things. So I'm kind of doing both roles. And I do notice that there's people that seem like they're acting, and there's other people that go 100% and they commit to the role, and they embody the emotion, and it could just be subtle, but you can tell when that switch goes off, when you're like, stop acting and start living this. Yeah. And it like I said, you can't tell what's wrong, but there's something wrong. And then as soon as they calm down, or they get into the flow, or they find whatever it is, and not being an actor, I don't know. I need to do more acting, get more experience on both sides of the camera. But that's to me, I think what's the biggest thing is to really embody that emotion, so that you're not feeling false. Because I feel like if you're lying to someone, they can tell, and that's essentially what acting is. And so if you can make it real, and you're like, and commit to it enough that it's a real now, then you're not acting as much. You're just sort of doing the steps that are asked of you, but in an honest way.
Yeah. Good answer. Well, you're gonna be making a film, so you got to know. You already know. I think. Yeah, but
I have a director. I have an assistant director and people that I would bring on when I'm making a film. So
yeah.
But I'm the producer and then the director of photography, so I have to wear both hats and be like, oh, okay, I'm not the producer right now. I need to listen to the director. That's an interesting thing, because on a larger film set, you wouldn't have 2 roles.
Yeah. And
I wouldn't recommend it. If you can, don't be the director and the actor. Don't be don't do 2 things. You're going to end up, I had problems with people that were working for me that were also kind of contributing ideas, and so had a production role, and they would just bypass the chain of command, and it was a terrible mess. Wow. So you need to understand, like, okay, if you want to be, a producer, but also a PA, you need to take the PA, the producer hat off to do your job and listen to the person that's telling you what to do, and then go, okay, now I am the producer also, but then go around and tell the other producer, like, hey, what do you think about this idea? And then come back and then do what you're told through the chain of command. So yeah, it gets really tricky when you're trying to do 2 different jobs, which is really common on a small set. Like that's, you're going to be doing like 3 jobs or whatever. Yeah.
I did it.
Yeah.
Producer, director, cinematographer, actor.
Yeah.
I didn't star in it though. That I knew I couldn't do that because that would just take too much.
Right.
But so you did say that in our notes, you grew up with parents who were artists in the Pacific Northwest. How did that shape your perspective of visual storytelling? How did that, was there any influence there?
There was, I'm just kind of really getting into like the nuance of figuring out what it is, but I sort of pick things up so that when I notice like composition and basics type things, I was looking at, wedding pictures my dad shot, on the dining room table as a kid, and, had a camera whenever I wanted one, and had that kind of access. My mom painted tile, so in high school I would put the little corner patterns on for her, and because she'd have thousands and a whole kitchen or something.
Wow.
I think, I started a business when I was really, I've kept starting businesses. So it's just like a serial entrepreneur of sorts.
That's awesome.
I did, the very first one I did, I probably was like 4 or 5. And I started a thing where I was selling Easter baskets or something I made, assembled. And I don't remember. It just did it one year and never did it again. I don't remember what stopped, why I didn't keep doing it, but
Interesting.
yeah, I'd buy all those parts and assemble it. I was just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this. I don't know where that came from.
I think that's huge. That's a huge part. I think in today's society, I think we all need to learn, how to, instead of just being the cog, right?
Yeah.
Let's learn how to stand on our own and create more cogs and help people and bring people in.
Yeah.
Tell me about your perception about color, photography, lighting, and creating like something that's emotional to connect with the audience. Like, what is your approach? How do you approach that angle?
So I have a weird perspective on that, because when I'm talking about color calibration and in that business and where I started from with that, it's not about trying to convey an emotion. It's about reproducing somebody else's vision accurately.
Mm-hmm.
So my whole thing has been, I want white to be white. I want gray to be gray. I want this to be as accurate as possible, which sometimes can be really helpful if you're trying to, reproduce a product. Reproducing artwork, it's absolutely critical, and it's going to be incredibly challenging just to get that certain blue to come through and in the print or whatever it is. But then as a colorist, now I'm having to be like, oh, and I still do that same step. That's like step 1 for me, is that I get the color as accurate as possible. And then it's about creating that emotion. Do you want it to be, cold and very business feeling, which is, would in my mind be neutral, or do you want, a warm neutral that's like a little more inviting? And so, and then obviously, like I've done a couple horror films that are like incredibly dark and, muted tones, and it's a whole different experience. So I'm still kind of trying to develop my sort of style. It tends to be very clean. But then I do tend to go on the warm side and just, especially kind of what I'm shooting. And like, if I'm doing something for a nonprofit, it's probably I'm trying to tell an emotional story. And so it might be warmer, and I might make different lens choices, and that all goes along with, it's not just color, but it's like, I'm using a lens now that's very weird and unusual, and I won't use that on something like an action sports type stuff. Or I did a bunch of stuff for the makerspace here, and I shot everything on Canon or Sony lenses, really normal stuff. I lit really neutral. I was, it's very technical. I just wanted to show what we're doing.
Yeah.
But I'm doing a video for an accounting company right now, and they're talking about the emotional impact of having someone you trust. So everything went back to vintage lenses. It's going to have a soft feel, because the value of what they provide is an emotional thing. I mean, technically they're solving math problems for you, but
yeah,
it's about the trust. It's about, having that safety, the feelings involved. So
yeah,
I'm trying to tell a different story than just, the math is going to add up. You're not going to go to jail for tax fraud or something, but also like you could stop stressing out, and like you could spend time with your family. And like, those are the kinds of things we're trying to talk about.
That's interesting. Yeah. So in pre-press, you're looking at CMY color, CMYK, and the variables and Pantones and all the numbers. In film, it's RGB. And when you said accounting, the first thing that popped up in my head was this cold, stale environment. And it's exactly what you're saying. How do you warm that up? How do you bring that more personable and have that emotional part of it? Yeah. It definitely gives you that. It's interesting. You said in a horror, they've been kind of real bland, right? You said it's kind of muted colors.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what the final color is going to be, because it's still in post.
Okay.
It's been in post for almost a year, because the VFX, we went kind of, we kind of went out all the stops on that project. And I think it was a lot to ask for the VFX person that was working for free on it. we're trying to blow up an entire bar at one point.
Yeah.
All the windows blow out, and obviously we didn't do that to the real bar.
Yeah.
We shot a version though that maybe we could use if the VFX never happens, but we're kind of still like the guy who's doing the VFX is a good buddy of mine, so like I know him, but he got married in the meantime, and has work, and may have just bitten off a little more than he can chew. But yeah, so for that, I wouldn't say just muted because it's kind of dark, rich tones, but it's a little bit monochromatic.
Okay.
It's a little bit more warm. The test that we did so far had like a film look or a film. Yeah, they had a film look applied to them that kind of made all the whites kind of dirty, made everything a little bit of sepia feel. And I think that kind of works for that, for what we're trying to convey, which was, it's a ghost story. So.
Yeah. Now you're editing as well though, right? You're doing color correction in some of the projects?
Yeah.
Right?
So I do color. I've done color on my commercial stuff. I do all the color.
Okay.
Sometimes I will have people help me with editing because they're just faster than me. I'm a technical editor is what I've learned. So I can solve weird problems, right? I can figure out how to make things match that don't work, or like why this thing's glitching. I'll go in there and I can decode things and figure out, but just cutting up a story, I can do it, but it takes me like a day to do what some people take like an hour to do.
I see.
So, but as far as color, yeah, I shot a space film not too long ago. Did the color on that. I'm doing the color on a comedy sort of sci-fi sort of comedy called Personal Enabler. I'll do the color on that because I shot it all, and it's we don't need another person involved. And yeah, so I definitely do the color on a lot of projects that I kind of, and I'm fast at color. So like somebody else is faster at the editing. Right. I can do the editing, I can tell the story, but man, I got picky certain frames, and I might come in and give somebody the project and then have them give it back to me, and I'll go in and tweak a frame here or there. But the rough story they can find, sometimes faster than I can.
How did you learn how to color correct on film? Color grade.
I just did it. I don't know. Everything I know, I taught myself pretty much. Sometimes I refer to a book here or there, or YouTube. I'll go on YouTube and just watch videos on, but I'll go there with a specific thing in mind. Like I can't figure out how to track this object or whatever it is. But I edit. I know the Resolve is better technically, but I do almost all my editing in Premiere Pro. Because that's what I learned on back in 1995 when I started doing this kind of stuff. And then I stopped doing it for a long time, but I always had it, I every once in a while I'd jump in there and, make some little thing out of some time-lapse pictures I shot or, something, but I was usually doing pre-press for someone else. And my kind of stuff was just sort of fun, whatever things I was doing. So when I got back into it, I've been using Lightroom forever. So I use Lightroom to even database my movies, which is not normal. But because I had 100,000 pictures already loaded into a Lightroom library, I'm like, I'm not going to start another thing. I want everything that I've ever done accessible at all times, so I can go in and grab pieces.
Nice.
And so everything goes into Lightroom, and Lightroom and Premiere have very similar editing tools. So I can go down the tools and I can get it roughed in really quick and intuitively because I just know it. And I've done stuff in Resolve and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. Like I can do this cool thing, or I changed somebody's hair color, and I was like, oh, I'm not that fast in this, but I tried it in Premiere and I was like, it wasn't quite as easy. And Resolve did a really good job at that. And I tell people all the time, if you're going to learn something new, Resolve's free. So that itself, the free version does most of what every once in a while I'm like, I wish I had this or I wish I had that, but like 90% of the time, the free version does what you want. And that alone, like you might hate it. You should try the free version first. And then if you love it, buy it, that kind of thing. And Premiere doesn't, you get a week or something free, but, you're not gonna, but so the Lightroom was really what translated to Premiere for me.
Yeah, it's the same org. So a lot of the same kind of language and presets and information. I learned on Final Cut Pro, then went to Premiere Pro, and then I wanted to learn Resolve. And the only way I can do is I have to have a project. So I made my film. And I was like, I'm going to make a film and I'm going to force myself to edit and resolve. And that's what I did. So I'm like, oh, okay, great. What, as a director of photography, how do you balance the technical precision with the artistic vision on set?
Oh man, I think they just go hand in hand. I don't think there's a balance there. I think that the technical side and the gear is all there as tools. Everything's a tool, right? So
Yeah.
your computer's a tool, the camera's a tool, the lens is a tool, the settings are different tools you have available to you. Every single thing's a tool, and they're all ultimately to deliver that vision that you have. So, and sometimes you'll have an experiment, some lens flare will happen that you're like, oh, I didn't think of that, but it's cool. I like it. I'm going to try it again, or I'm going to make it even more pronounced or whatever. But ultimately you have a vision, and we do a lot of lookbooks sort of things before we even go in to a project. So I kind of know like, what is it we want to accomplish? And I'll work with the director as much as possible ahead of time to create a shared vision. Whenever I can, we'll create storyboards, even if they're just stick figures. I'm like, are we cutting off the stick figure right here or right here? Like that's
right.
You can communicate that with the stick figures. That's fine. Or just roughed in, here's a head and some shoulders. And that tells you, oh, we're on a medium tight shot. Oh, we see the whole body. That's a wide. And then, there's a light in the background in this shot or whatever. Like you can tell all that before you even pull a camera out. If you do some rough storyboards. I love overheads because then you can kind of be like, this is where we're going to put the lights. And then when you get there, you might tweak and be like, oh, that light kind of bounces off something I don't notice. But at least you don't have to like be like, I think I want that light there, maybe that there. And your grip or your gaffer or whoever's doing that for you, they can refer to your original plan and just get it close. And then you can tweak it from there. And you don't have to spend all day, deciding where you're going to put a light because you already decided a month ago.
Yeah. How much influence do you have on the storyboard? And then how much influence are you along with the location scouting as well? Are you going with them?
It varies really a lot from project to project.
Okay.
Some of the larger projects I've been there from the very beginning. So there'll be a script written, and that's about it, right? So we'll start looking for locations, and the shot list we'll even do with the director. So we'll go through and be like, okay, you say this line. Are we looking at the back of your head? Are we looking at the front? Are we cutting halfway through to show the other person's reaction? Is that 2 shots or 1? And again, the director's essentially who is directing all of that. But I need to understand because sometimes they know in their head, but they're not communicating it to you. But ultimately we're trying to recreate the director's vision.
Yeah.
So, I am also a tool to do that essentially. So I want to get out of the way and do everything I can to recreate that vision. Now, as a business, I have to do everything. So it's a little bit different story. Where sometimes the client has the vision or sometimes I bring the vision to the client, and so that is a whole different thing. And then and it's a much smaller team because everybody's especially these kinds of small budget films. Ton of the ones I'm working with the Olympia Film Collective, and here in Olympia we're making a ton of movies. I think we made 12 movies in the last 18 months that I've worked on alone, something like that. Yeah, it's a lot. It's
Holy smokes.
I'd have to go through. I mean, sometimes I'm playing a small piece where I just show up and help for a day on set up lights or whatever, or I'm AC for a day or something. And some of them we're spending months planning, and as a director of photography, I'm much more involved. But basically, these wouldn't happen without everybody working for free, and and I guess in that case, like you're kind of like you can only ask for so much for free, so you don't have the luxury of like trying out 7 locations and and so that's a lot of times where things get skipped. We don't have time for a storyboard, we don't have time to get on the same page, we just got to wing it. And it's better if you have more planning, and so I'm pushing for more of the projects to have a budget, even if it's just something. So the one I'm producing in January, which I do have a fundraising thing I'm doing for that, our entire budget's like, I think our goal was like a couple grand. But the good thing is it's just literally a 1-day shoot, one location. It's the simplest project you can ever come up with.
Nice.
But my idea is that as the production company, everybody should get paid. They should get paid something. $150 for the day, whatever it is, a piece of if there's any profits. We're gonna go to businesses and try to get funding and throw their logo on the front or whatever it is. Maybe small donors. We're just now starting that process. So it's kind of an experiment to try to figure out how to do that without people working for free, so that we get, people show up on time. They know it's a job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it should be run like a business in my mind.
That makes sense.
And I do feel like, and I'm kind of trying to communicate this to the group of the Olympia Film Collective, which, by the way, is an amazing nonprofit we just end up being just the right size city, where we don't have enough people to form 10 groups that all kind of pull in different directions. We just ended up with one. And it really makes the group like cohesive. And so, that's why we're able to pump out so many projects is, a lot of people are bringing ideas to the table, and people just jump in and be like, yep, I want to do that. I'll produce it. I'll jump in and do that. I want to act in that. And so that's, but it allows for a lot of people to get in. So I see a place for those films where you're like, okay, I have no money, but I have an idea. All right. I don't have a camera or anything. And so somebody else with a camera can show up and they're like, I'll work for free. And I have a camera, and somebody else has some lights and somebody else works. And so you would never have had that film if everybody wasn't working for free.
Right.
But then once you've done 10 of those or 20 of those or whatever, maybe you should go out and get some money and pay some people to do that. And so I want to cater to both of those options, because if you're a student who's never done anything before, I'm not going to bring you on my set where we're paying people.
Right.
I want the people that have 20 films under their belt to come into those situations. But I want an opportunity for the people with zero experience to show up and work on things and get that experience. And so that's pretty cool. You can just show up and do, voice acting or hold a flag or whatever. Like, there's room for everyone. We have seniors that have never acted or done anything before that are now producing films out of that group.
Wow.
That just literally showed up and, in their 80s and were like, I want to make a movie. And we're like, do it. And they're like, oh, there's a 16-year-old kid that also wants to help. They're on the same team. Perfect.
Interesting. So out of those 12 films, what do you guys do with the films?
They're going all kinds of, a lot of them end up stuck in post. So a couple of them are on the festival circuit.
Okay.
A couple of them just pretty much went to YouTube.
Yeah.
One woman, the very first film I ever worked on, she'd made a bunch of films and she just pumps them out and moved on to the next thing. She's, went to the circus after that, just to kind of learn all kinds of performance stuff. So,
wow.
And so she didn't really have like this idea of building this revenue from that. She just was like, I don't know, it's a silly movie, whatever. What do I do with it? So it's on YouTube, so that's cool. You can watch it.
Yeah.
One of them
Send me
was
a
a
link.
48, which you know how those go.
Yeah.
So it just goes to that, and then it can go to other festivals after that. But yeah, so that's a big question for me, is where do they go? And because I didn't produce any of those, I don't have the say in any of where they go.
Sure.
They just leave me, and they go where they go, and they. I want to see them go more places, so I'm looking at options for like series, making a series or something. We did some reality and a TV pilot recently.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, okay, that we're not going to give out for free. That's something we're going to try to sell to a network.
Yeah.
So we're in talks right now to get that in front of people that could buy it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm trying to like a lot of different things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, definitely keep in touch and let me know how that goes and any links. And how does your passion for the environmental and community focused work influence the projects that you choose to take on?
That actually is a big part of, I feel like there's a balance there, right? So as a business, I need to make money, but I want to make it working for the best people I can that are doing the best things possible. So that means a lot of different things. So like one of the second or third jobs I got, because I did a lot of stuff for a nonprofit right away that was providing really an affordable housing to people who would not qualify normally. It was like the ideal kind of person that I wanted to work for. And then I got a job for the local bank, and I'm like, I don't really care. Well, then I started talking to them, and all their employees love their job. They're donating tons of money back to the community, and it ended up being a mutual bank, which I didn't know what that meant. I thought it was either like, we just care about making money, or you're a credit union, and they're not a credit union, right? So I was like, oh, whatever, I'll make a little money, we'll get some experience, it's fine, we'll move on. It's not really on brand, and it's not aligned with our mission, but it's not completely the wrong direction either. It's local, keep the money in the community, that's fine. Yeah. But after I kind of got into that, I was like, wow, this actually is really aligned with what I'm trying to do, because they make sure their employees, they can have families, they can own a car, they are not on food stamps and working full time, those kinds of things. Like, you go to the company picnic and everybody's like super stoked to be there and, excited. They provide time to volunteer in the community. So they're getting paid to go out and volunteer. And so that was kind of cool. Then we're like, okay, so like the accounting company, I'm like pretty stoked to like hear how they're really helping these other small businesses. And one lady started crying on camera because she's like, I thought I was going to lose my business. My accountant said I was crazy to do, and I don't remember what they were, X, Y, and Z, but she's like, that's what this business is about. I don't care if it doesn't make sense. We need to make that make sense financially, but I have to do it because that's my mission. And so the accountant company that I'm working for came in and was like, and they just listened, and they, were like, yeah, you're in trouble. You need to fix this and this, but I'm not going to put you off your mission. We're going to make this work and do what you want to do.
That's great. Wow. When it comes to color grading, what are some of the common misconceptions that you need to explain to clients unfamiliar with the process?
Color grading to clients. I think the biggest misconceptions are just people that are trying to run a camera more than the clients. The clients, they just want it to look nice. Mixed lighting is the big one. So if you're going into an environment with really bad lighting, I shot an expo, just last week I shot an expo, and it was a nightmare because, and I don't understand why. It's a newer building. I'm not going to name names because it's a really great venue, but the lighting, it's just all over the place. And I'm like, what did I do wrong? The camera settings are wrong. Something's wrong here. And as I start to get it close and I'm getting everything kind of neutral, I noticed, oh, that side of the wall is pink. And then right next to it's greenish and then pinkish. And I'm like, they're not all the same color temperature lights. So the color temperature of your lights is critical. And so I will go, and they'll flicker too. That's another unrelated to color, but I want to know about the color temperature and I want to know about the frequency. So I'll go in with a camera ahead of time and shoot some samples. And a big thing, like if I'm going into a client's location, I'm like, what can I turn off? What can I replace with a different bulb? What can I do to make this behave? Because you've got a window that I can't control right next to this, yellowish green fluorescent light. It's like, can I turn that off and then bring my own light in that matches the daylight? Matching light is the most, because our eyes compensate for that better. They're less sensitive to the color temperature changes than a camera sensor. Right. And I understand spectrophotometry, which is how when I was doing color calibration. So I understand like what it is there's like rods and cones, and they're like, if you look at a graph, there's like, ultraviolet light, and then it goes reds and oranges, and there's, basically you got a rainbow, you spread it all out, and there's a graph that's light, and it keeps going off what we can't see on both ends, and we just see this little chunk. Well, we pick up 3 points essentially, or like kind of one for brightness and then red and blue, or A and B for like lab color, and that's how the human eye sees, but a camera sees these 3 different spots, red, green, and blue. And a different brand will have those spots in slightly different spots. And so what will trick one thing, the big one I noticed was like, we were doing tennis shoes for Nike, and they were all white. The whole shoe's white. And you look at it and it's white. And you go to take the picture and you bring it up on the computer, and it's like a beigeish white top with like a bluish white bottom. And you're like, why is that?
Oh, interesting.
And it's because there's a plastic piece, and then there's a rubber piece, and then there's a leather piece, and they have different dyes. And when ultraviolet light hits it, a certain amount get absorbed by the materials, and then part bounces off. And then that goes through another sensor that's your eyes that perceives it. And it had been carefully engineered so it all appeared white. But to the camera, it was not tricked by that, or it was tricked in a different way that saw those as 3 different colors. And that'll happen with all kinds of things. Things that are green will go gray, and fabrics are real tricky because they have fluorescent components that make them, and even printer paper will have a fluorescent material in it that makes it seem really, really bright. And that'll look bluish to a camera, and it will look white to your eye. And then how much light, in the light, what is made up in there. So understanding and explaining that to clients, I'd not necessarily I'd have this conversation with a client. I'd kind of filter that all down through my head and be like, okay, I see this problem and that and that. And then I'd go to them and be like, can we turn that light off? Or, hey, if you can't turn that light off, can we do this and this? And, can we block that and bring some more light in for this? Or, if you really want to shoot in this lobby with green coming through this one window and, that there, and you can't turn it off because you don't own the building and the management won't, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
So those are the kinds of challenges, which is why I love working inside, actually, on like a set or in like a studio or because then I can bring in lights and they all match and they have beautiful color temperature. They have a fairly high CRI. CRI is a big thing. And that's about having energy all across the entire spectrum that's kind of neutral. So that when you bounce it off something red, it comes back with it doesn't have some weird part of the light that all of a sudden makes that look pink because there's a lot of blue energy.
What's your favorite light? What do you recommend?
I like Aperture. But that's not necessarily because they're the very best quality ever, but they're pretty close. So I don't know if there's anything better, but it's just the average balance between the cost, the build quality, I'm excited to see the new. I don't remember what else they have it in because they announced it in another light, but there was a 1200X that's new, and it has. Those are usually just 2 colors of like a warm and a cool.
Yeah,
but they added an indigo and something else.
Oh.
And what it did was it filled in the gaps. Actually, let me draw you a picture here.
I think what you're saying, because I've seen that on some lights, you can change the tint of the light.
Yes.
To go more magenta or more green, right?
Yeah. So this adds that ability, and they added into some of the. I'm too cheap to have those big, huge lights like that for my commercial work. I've got a buddy that I can rent them from if I have big things. But
yeah.
But yeah. So LEDs are kind of problematic because they have essentially. So if you look at light and sort of graph it out, like here's graph. An incandescent light bulb, the old filament style.
Yeah.
They just go like that. So this is blue over here, and this is a dark. This is going to infrared over here. I think right, ultraviolet, infrared. There you go. So there's no blue energy essentially, which is why it seems so warm. And as it goes up, but it's linear. It's completely straight line. And then daylight is kind of sort of say like that. Okay. So there's a good amount of blue. There's more in the middle, and then it falls off towards this end. LEDs are a little bit problematic because they basically are a blue light and then a secondary phosphorescent material that downshifts the frequency of energy to yellow. So that ends up being a curve, especially the cheaper, like if you get real cheap consumer grade LED light bulbs. They end up with a huge spike. You can't see this, and I'll show you back in a second. This is the original blue light.
Yeah.
Right? And all it would normally be is just that little spike right there. It's just blue. It's like one frequency. And then that, would have gone way off the chart. But then some of that goes and hits that. Some of it bleeds through, and some of it hits this phosphorescent coating that turns it into this this color, which is like an orangish glow, right? And so and that's why you can get warmer LEDs, like your house lighting. They will be better quality on average for a lower cost when they're warm, because you just bring this blue down into a little tiny spike and then a big nice orange area, and they'll lower this down so it kind of goes up here more, and something like that. I'm drawing this backwards so I can't even see what I'm doing. But yeah, so that will cause problems, and that's why really good lights are really expensive, is because they've tuned this phosphor coating. Maybe there's several different there's what are they called, rare earth elements that are made into these phosphors. Phosphorescent is one of them, but there's other chemicals, and they'll have like a little tiny grid of multiple of them all scattered, microscopic little, so that it'll bounce some more over here and some more over here. And so what Aperture did is they have another one here in the middle. They've added another color there. And there's actually another one over here too. And that allows you to do the green magenta blend. But even if you just want white, it's nice and smooth, and they filled in some of the gaps. Most people won't care, but as far as like a color science or like product or like trying to really match something, it's pretty cool.
It's interesting because I think when you look at panel lights in general, I think I have an Amrin spotlight. It's, we're always trying to find what's going to be accurate, what's going to work. So it's that the whole science on it is really fascinating, because it's like, you pay for what you get, right? I mean, that's what it really boils down to.
Sometimes there's a better bang for your buck out there. I look at the specs. So I've got a couple lights that I got just to kind of get started, just to get a basic interview kit together, that I picked up at B&H in their used department for like $60. And I went back to buy more, and they were $150 the next week. But wow. I looked at the specs on them, and they're almost like exact. They're a single color. But they almost exactly match my Aperture lights that I had. So that I had one that was tunable, and then one that I could put a fill light in or a backdrop light, and they matched fairly well. So a lot of companies, they're buying LEDs from. I can't remember the companies now. I did a ton of research on the actual chips for LEDs, because before I got into this, I wanted to design lights, and I had designed a combination of halogen with LEDs and different reflectors, and because when you're trying to show off a print, it has to be under perfect daylight to be exact, and nobody has that available unless you go outside. So I found some people who are making bulbs that did that, but they were halogen, and they've since been discontinued. But they basically would take that flat curve there, and they would this part of the energy, they'd I can't see it. They take this curve, of your halogen bulb. It's just a straight line. But a lot of this yellow just like bled through the back. It had a reflector in it that would focus the blue light forward. And then they had a small amount of filter on the front. And through these tweaks, they were getting like 99.9 CRI in a little 50-watt halogen bulb.
Wow. So
I would buy lamps, and I'd find things to sell to my clients to get these little a little view booth that was like super accurate. And I wanted to develop my own things to do that, but it, making products and having a family and running a business, and like have 8 million ideas.
Yeah. How do you collaborate with directors to ensure that their vision is fully realized while staying true to your expertise in cinematography?
Yeah, the lookbooks is the big one. So because I'm gonna and I'll have ideas, and I'll bring to them way before we go to shoot. So I'm like, what if this, had a little more Rembrandt light to it because you had a single side, or what if this has, do you like this idea? And we go through different pictures, and we'll just bring them up out of screenshots out of different movies we like. And it's just having that conversation of like, first of all, what is the mood for this film? Big picture. Or maybe does it change halfway through if you go from like this normal environment to like, it's got real sad all of a sudden? Maybe that's reflected in the color tones and the lighting. Maybe it becomes real artificial. And so it's really just like that communication of like, what do you want this to feel like? And how does it, how are we going to do that? And here's an example. Do you agree? And we're like, and so we get really close down to like, yeah, it should have a catch light there, and this should be there.
I've acted for about, I don't know, 20 years. And every time I'm on set, it's always the cinematographer we're always waiting for, and we're waiting for the lights. How do you trim down that setup time when you're making like a low budget 1-day shoot? How do you manage that?
Yeah, the first setup on a low budget, the budget's the problem. Because if you had 3 days, because a lot of the movies we've done, the ghost film I was talking about, it's called Spec. I'm excited people to see it once it's finally done because we put a lot into it. But I think we shot 100 and something camera angles in like 2 days or 3 days.
Wow.
It was insane. And the big thing, and every one of these films where kind of the actors and everybody are working for free. That should have been a week. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
And the reason it's not is because, the producer was investing money to rent a hotel and to do all these things, and they couldn't rent it for a week for the chance that this movie would maybe make some money someday, unless you already have it sold to somebody. Which is why I'm asking, like, where these things are going to go and how do we raise money? Because it's like, you can't just show up and sit on set as an actor, not getting paid for 6 hours while I tweak the lights and get them perfect. So planning is critical. Like I said, if you have those overheads, I can be setting my camera up while somebody else is putting the lights in, and they don't have to ask me where they're going because they already know there's going to be a light, backstage. There's going to be one to the far left. It's going to be coming from this angle, whatever. And the actor's going to be standing here. And so it needs to hit them. And so they have a pretty good idea ahead of time. And so we'll have a lot of pre-production meetings with the gaffer and the director and the DP to kind of plan this all out the best possible. But then you do end up rushing and things aren't, you kind of just have to start rolling sometimes. And you're like, it's close. All right, let's move on. Because there isn't a budget there. Whereas if everybody's like, oh, I don't care, I'm getting paid my day rate no matter what, take as long as you want. I took the week off work, whatever, or this is my full-time job. I'm on this set for a month. Then because I've heard of famous directors where they show up and they spend all day lighting. They're just like, and everybody's there getting paid. Famous actors are there, A-list celebrities, and they're like, just waiting around. They'll come in, stand there for a minute and be like, yeah, it looks pretty good. Let's move this around a little bit. But that's a luxury.
Right. Yeah. But even on this, I've been involved in smaller sets where you are getting paid, but it's like the hurry up and wait, right? Hurry up, show up set, get your wardrobe, get your makeup, and now we're waiting. What are we waiting for? Oh, setup, lighting. Okay.
Right.
Oh, Joe, can you do a stand-in real quick? Okay. Stand in. Just the light. Okay. All right, go back. Yeah. Sit down, relax.
So what we deal with that, we have a solution to that a little bit. The camera and the director and the lighting people might be there 2 hours before the cast calls. So on the call sheet, there'll be different times. Yeah. And so gear gets rolled in at 10 a.m., but talent doesn't show up until noon. So that gives us time to set up, rough stuff in, and you're literally just having a PA do a stand in and get it close. And then when the actor shows up, all they're waiting for is setups between shot 1, 2, when we got to tweak something. And I've kind of found that when things are off, they're off at the beginning. The halfway through the day, you're either back on track or you at least haven't lost more time. That the major time losses in the setup and getting gear in, it takes longer than you thought or whatever, or some part broke. And then just the more you do this, you start to figure out, because I would show up with an entire truckload of stuff at first. And a slider on things I didn't need it for, and all these different tools. And the more experience I get, the more I show up with the exact things I need, and then my normal bag of things that I can grab that are just problem solvers. A tool here or there that you're like, I might need this, or it's some tape that you didn't plan on, or whatever. Like these kinds of basics. Like there's certain things that just solve problems that you don't know that you need it, but you throw it in the bag anyways. But you don't bring, the massive, whatever extra 10 C stands when you only have 2 lights or whatever it is. that you have that all thought out ahead of time, and you show up prepared to shoot the thing you're going to shoot, and it goes much faster and much smoother.
How do you light people with different ethnicities? Because I think I've seen some background stuff. I think like Black Panther, for a perfect example, where there were specific lights because of everyone's ethnicity and bringing up the color. And I've seen films with African Americans where you could barely see them because the lighting wasn't good, you know? So how do you manage that?
Yeah, it is. The intensity. The nice thing is that about a year ago, I went up from a camera that couldn't even do log. So I started, the first couple things I did, I had a partner and she had a Sony A7 III. And I don't know if we either didn't know how to do log well enough or if that camera wasn't really up to the job. But when you turned on log on that thing, the noise would get pretty bad.
Yeah.
And I think that since then I've learned that you need to be a stop and a half overexposed, and you need to be on one of the two ISOs. I don't know about the A7 III because I didn't research it because I haven't had it. But when I went to the A7 IV, which is not in any way like a high-end camera in my mind, that's kind of like sort of entry level ish for like a professional, like I'm running a business making movies. But what it allows is for 10-bit log color. And then very, very low noise at 800 or 3200 ISO. So I never leave 800 or 3200. And I will change the lens. I'll change the lighting. I'll change something else if I have to. But even at 3200, man, I shoot stuff in dark bars with almost no light. It's amazing what these new cameras will do. It's pretty nuts. But the point with shooting in log and having the 10-bit color is I can bring things up or down almost 2 stops. So a lot of times in Premiere, I'm using the shadow slider and bringing that up a little bit, and then I'll nudge the black down to get the shape back in it. But now all of a sudden, what was like very underexposed, as long as there's information there, you can work with it. But what I found with different ethnicities, though, is the color temperature. So again, when I was talking about these different curves with the lighting and how they produce weird things, really high CRI lights will work for lots of different skin types. And really poor lighting will make, because like that expo thing I was just shooting, especially the pictures, the video was a little bit less of a problem, probably because the motion kind of made your mind not care as much. But there were people that seemed green or yellow, and then right next to them be somebody that seemed pink. And so I slide it one way, and the guy that maybe is Irish or whatever descent, he now looks normal. And these other people just are green almost, right? Asian or all kinds of different. Anybody with a little bit more pigment picks up that yellow light, and it looks weirdly greenish yellow. And I'd fix them, and the other guy ends up being like bright pink. And that doesn't happen when I have a nice, good, clean white.
I see. Yeah.
So
I've been under fluorescent lights, and my skin just totally looks yellow. Like I feel like an alien.
Yeah. And under a nice, good, 5,000 K light, or even 400, 4,000, whatever the big thing is understanding white balance. So if my lights are putting out 4,000, my camera needs to be set at 4,000, and I need to check it. And I actually measure with a spectrophotometer my different lights. So I can tell you things about the spectrum that single number won't tell you. Like it's a little bit high in this one shade of pink over here, or compared to different brands. And I'm like, there was some panel lights that the local TV place here had, and I'm like, don't bring those on set. They have a little bit of a green tint. It's hard. You don't see it, but the camera picks it up, and it's really weird.
Interesting.
But then you lie. Once you learn those rules, then you break them. And you're like, oh, I want this to have a warm feel, so I'll set my camera to 5,000 and the lights to 4,000.
Okay.
But you can also do that in post.
Right. That's what I do.
So that's what I really liked about RAW files in photography is you can set that after the fact. That they're literally the camera settings for what the white balance are, they're irrelevant. Because once you bring up the raw file, it's truly like just the data that was the processor saw or the sensor captured, unprocessed. Yeah. And unless you're shooting on a red, which even then or a black magic, I've been told aren't the same. It's not truly raw. It's just more like raw. But a raw photograph is an amazing thing. Yeah. Because you can tweak everything except for shutter speed. And, if it's not in focus, you got to get it at focus. You got to get the ISO right and your aperture. And that's it. Everything else, every other setting, every look, everything doesn't matter if you have it on raw. But so I do a lot of, I'll use a white card, which I don't think I have one in front. Oh, no, I don't know where it is.
Which they always look gray, don't they?
Yes, they're a light gray. And the big thing is that they vary in quality. So the Kodak 50% gray card that some people have kind of used before, and I've seen these come up of like, oh, I went to the camera store and I bought this gray card. Those are for exposure for film. They are not neutral and they won't stay neutral. And they're not spectrally neutral, which means that it's actually the exact same amount of energy no matter what frequency you give it. So just like this line here, it needs to go straight across.
Right.
And so if you give it this, it bounces back a lighter version of that, or darker, I guess. But if you had one that was like kind of, and had a little bit of a brown tint in the corner or something, your camera would be like, yeah, that's neutral. And it wouldn't be. So doing a custom white balance or knowing your lights after you've done it once, then you kind of can be like, oh, I know my camera and these lights, they do work at, 4100, 0. I don't need a magenta green shift. But if you don't know, you pull out the white balance card, and it needs to be of exceptionally high quality. So I use the X-Rite Color Checker Passport as a white. There's some other ones a little bit cheaper. That one's $100, but it comes with a color checker.
Yeah, the card things? You're talking about those?
Yeah, so it's a little, and I'm not sure where I have it. It's in my camera stuff. I've just came back for a shoot, so there's just gear dumped everywhere. I've had film and sets and then TV and then all kinds of things back to back.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a little clamshell case and it opens up and it's got a color checker. And then you flip that over and on the back, it's just a big white thing.
Okay.
But the thing about it is it's not a paper product. It's not painted. It's a plastic material that is specifically engineered to bounce back the exact same energy at any frequency. So if you put blue on that, blue bounces back. And you put red on that, red bounces back. Whereas if you had a little imperfections, blue would bounce back right, but that red might be a tiny bit yellow and it would throw everything off.
Interesting.
And then, so then you use that in the big, and you have to know where to point it. Because it needs to, like if you have multiple light sources and you're picking up the light behind you because you're facing it like this, now it's hitting that light. And if I face it like this, it's, like there's a different light over there. Yeah. And so you can then like, what one do you want to say is white? And so you have to bounce off. And what I do when I'm shooting a video is I will take it like this and I'll put it up to the camera and then I'll go and move it in a bunch of different ways. And then in post, I can go in there and be like, okay, yeah, that was right. But when you're doing it in camera, you get one chance. You pick you point it where you want it and then you pick it and set that as your custom white balance. Yeah. So I would say they're fundamental. And I'm actually teaching a class on color in Premiere at the community college here. It's going to be online. So anybody in the world can join that. That's going to be in January. I'll send you some links for some of this stuff because I don't have all of it in front of me. Yeah. But I would start with understanding the color temperature of your lights and the white balance on your camera. If you don't do that, everything else is going to be messed up from then on.
That answers my question. The question was, what kind of advice would you give to aspiring filmmakers about integrating storytelling with technical aspects like lighting and color? And you just answered it.
Well, I would start with white balance, but that's a technical thing specific to color. I would learn lighting. Lighting is probably the first thing that I would focus on above anything else, because, if you're just like, oh yeah, just throw a light up there. No, that it needs to be from a certain angle. What is your goal for it? You need to create, if you have a flat lighting, that's going to be really boring. unless you're trying to reproduce artwork or something, then you do want it flat. Every one of those little moves in your light is a choice. And the balance between your fill light and your key light, that's going to create the mood. And so, watch a YouTube video on how to light a portrait. Watch a YouTube video on Rembrandt lighting versus, clamshell lighting. And there's a million of them out there. And when you watch a few of them, you'll realize, okay, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about, and this girl does. And, like you got, YouTube's free, so you get what you get. But but there's a lot of really good information. Or read a book on lighting if that's how you learn. Try some things, but lighting will probably be the biggest thing before anything else. And then getting a good white balance, and then lens choices, because lenses are, this was the camera I started with in my business. A6100 is a little.
Oh yeah.
Well, actually, I had a Canon before that. It was 1080, but I was just filming myself, so I didn't really care. But I was like, oh, I need 4K so I can punch in and stabilize and do all these other things. Yeah. And even at 1080, it looks better to start with 4K. But it didn't have stabilization as a crop sensor. And it has kind of a weak dynamic range. Now, I shot some absolutely beautiful stuff with it because I put a vintage 1960s Pentax Super Takamura lens on it. Wow. I got the color right, and I got the lighting right, and I got it all under control, so there wasn't too much contrast. Now, outside, that's a different story. It won't keep up. And I've shot some stuff recently with both of them, and I was like, oh, I can't even use that anymore.
Why Sony? How come you didn't go with Blackmagic or Red?
Because workflow is just faster without having to deal with a raw file. So what I do is on my commercial stuff, and I've shot on Red before, and Blackmagic, and I there's advantages to both. But it wasn't enough of a quality difference when I did everything right. Like if you don't know what you're doing, it might save you to have all that data.
Yeah.
But if you can really, I'm glad I started with the camera I did that was like really on the edge of falling apart every time I did anything, because I had to bring that light down to the black and the white on set to get it to fit in what the camera could handle. So that I learned those things. So now that I have more control, it's like, okay, cool, but I can push it more. But yeah, a lot of it's also just budget. There isn't a Red out there that's full frame. I wanted a full frame camera to capture the just the depth of field that a full frame camera gives you is a little bit better noise quality. I shot some stuff on a GH5. And wasn't overly impressed. I could see that it had features I wanted, though. It had log, it had a bunch of stuff, but this didn't even have focus peaking. So that was a big thing. I'm like, focus peaking on the camera, that's pretty cool. But yeah, if I was to just make movies only, I'd probably be looking at a newer Blackmagic. But it's just it's not I didn't really care. I was looking at Canon, I was looking at Reds, I was looking at used Blackmagics. The Blackmagic there's a Blackmagic Studio camera it's pretty old now, but it had a global shutter, and it basically was a huge cinema camera. So the Pocket Cam, they didn't have a global shutter, and they had kind of a smaller screen, but this was basically like a monitor with a lens mount on the front. And so they're not a good point, grab and go hiking and take pictures kind of camera. They are set up for a studio, but they're pretty cool because they have a global shutter, and they weren't that expensive. And I had worked with a DP that had two of those, and so we've shot a couple films now on those together. That was his AC on those. Or gaffer, I think I did both really, and I don't remember what credit they gave me. That's on my MBD is one of them. One of them still in post. But once you get a good lens, even on a cheap camera, that's kind of like you need to get to a certain level where the equipment can hang with you. But at a certain point, it kind of like if you have a Canon, I don't care. I'm sure the new Nikons, there's some Nikons now that are 8K global shutter. I'm sure they're amazing. But I kind of got used to Sony. I came from Canon, but I went to Sony because it was, 5 years ago or what, I was kind of like, Canon didn't really have anything out there that really kept up.
Yeah.
A year later they leapfrog and
Sure.
they're right up there. And so I don't really care about what brand, as long as you know the camera and it can do what you want it to do. I don't need it to push the limits, but I definitely enjoy the better technology and that, the increased dynamic range and the lower noise. I can do more things. I can shoot in more places. So there's advantages. But yeah, Sony has an amazing low light. They've done a really good job with that at 3200 ISO. There's virtually no noise. That's pretty crazy. And I think that, like I said, the new Canons probably can keep up. But I didn't see the Blackmagic keeping up quite as well. I think they have some newer ones now. But actually, the real new 6K I worked with recently, and it has terrible noise at high ISO. I think, what is it called? It was just it's the Blackmagic Pocket Camera 6K. It was released in the last couple of years. I did some consulting for somebody that had one. And so they sent me some samples and I'm like, wow, that's terrible. But I'm assuming they just, needed some help. And I Googled it and saw video samples and they were full of noise. It was not as good as the one just before it.
Interesting.
And, they just more resolution, whatever, doesn't always add up. So,
what would you say is the best constructive criticism that you've received as a cinematographer?
I'm not sure it's so much just specifically as a cinematographer, but it applies is to getting things to 80-90% perfect is better than being behind schedule and being rushed and getting it perfect and then having it be going terrible because of all the other stress that being behind causes. So I think that's a big lesson that I have learned is that you shoot for perfection, but when the day comes, you do the best you can in the time you have allocated. You move quickly, you plan ahead, but then you just get it as close as you can and you get the shot. A shot done is better than a shot perfect. So I think that's probably some good advice that applies to every part of filmmaking and life in general.
It does. Michael, what's next? What are you working on now in the near future? I know you said there was a fundraiser that you have coming up in January.
I'm also producing a live music show on YouTube.
Nice.
And that's at Rhythms Coffee here in Olympia. And Rhythms Coffee has built an amazing community of musicians. So bands have literally formed out of this coffee shop. But then also bands that are touring the United States will stop in Olympia, Washington to play in a coffee shop, which I still don't understand how it makes sense. But I think we were halfway between Portland and Seattle. So on their tour, they'll stop by here. Maybe they make gas money. I don't know. But there's amazing talent that comes through. And I've met some really, really cool people. So we're broadcasting live several nights a week, like 3 to 4 nights a week. We're going live for several hours at a time.
On YouTube.
And that's going right now. You can join the YouTube. Like you can follow the YouTube channel. What is it? Subscribe. You can subscribe on YouTube to see it now. But then it's going live in January. So we'll do an official launch and we'll have best of edited footage because we're recording a lot of it. A lot of it's just streaming. But it's basically an art piece for 2 hours that, we have multicam. We've got 4 cameras running a lot of times. And it's live mixing. And that's pretty new. That's a new thing for me is doing live. I haven't streamed anything before. And I'm now really gotten, in the last couple of months, we've done, 20, 30 shows. I don't even know how many.
Wow.
I'm up to like 8 terabytes of data I'm trying to store just from the cameras I'm dealing with.
Oh my gosh.
And so that's been good. The sound was the biggest part. I don't deal with the sound, and the sound was really problematic. They'd have a band that's like, real quiet at first, come on, do some folk, and then like a entire band would come on with the drums are hard. because you can't set the volume of the drums.
Right.
So blast the entire thing out, and they turn everything up to match the drums. And now all of our channels are blown out.
Oh my gosh.
We're getting that figured out.
Yeah.
And we've had some really good, clean shows and nice, clean recordings of those. But yeah, so that's why a lot of times if it's not perfect, we don't leave it up. We just pull it down. So it's kind of like in its, behind the scenes phase where you got to come in and watch us make mistakes.
Very cool though.
Yeah. And then what else am I doing? Yeah, those are kind of the big ones. I'm working on a couple documentaries that are long term. One on mental health. That's going to be probably interviewing people over the next couple of years, talking about different aspects of mental health, grief and how people deal with grief and how we don't accept it in our society, and how that doesn't help people. So I'm still in the planning stages and sort of looking for people to interview and that kind of thing on that. And then the big one I want to plug is my business, because I'm doing a series of spotlight videos on local businesses where I'm marketing it with them, producing it with them. So it's half the cost to them than it normally would be. And then that's pretty much focused on Olympia, Thurston County area. And I'm, kind of beginning to do that until I have one of each kind of industry I haven't worked on yet. So I'm working on a restaurant right now in the planning stages. The accounting company is one of those. And that it basically just is a video just showcasing what they do and how they help the community and how they're, what they do kind of behind the scenes, that kind of thing.
Where does that footage go? Does it go on your site, or is it?
Yeah, so that will go onto pretty much all the social media channels. So it will be cut up into little pieces and used on Instagram and Facebook and the kind of normal things. TikTok. I'll probably put it everywhere. Yeah. And then there'll be a longer video, a minute and a half, 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, depending on the business, that will be on YouTube. So there'll be a series of those on my YouTube channel. And then probably the same thing on the business's YouTube and Facebook. It'll go both places. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. So that's a kind of a promotion sort of series that I'm doing for businesses as a business. So I'm like running all these things, and then the TV pilots are kind of cool. We shot a kind of a drama. It's sort of reminiscent of I can't think of it now. Shameless. It's kind of a little bit like that. A little more sitcom-y than that, though. So we finished that already. It's in post. And then we're doing a pitch for a reality show. So that's not something that people get to see, because they're just proofs of concepts that go out to the but those are filmed here in Olympia, so that's kind of fun.
Are you able to share the titles for those?
I don't know.
Or is it under wraps still?
It may be. At some point, once I know what's going to happen next, I'll be able to share the trailers and all kinds of things for those.
Nice.
But at this point, I don't want to jinx any kind of deals that we're maybe working on. And this is literally our first meeting to start making those deals was yesterday.
Oh, good.
So there, we just kind of made it with no plan for what was going to happen next. Yeah. And then luckily, like I know a guy from Discovery, Warner Brothers, and somebody else knows somebody from Paramount, and there's kinds of options to maybe get things in front of people. I've never done that before, so that's new for me.
Well, that's awesome.
I just make things and they go to businesses.
Yeah. Well, when you're ready, come back. We'll do a promo.
Yeah.
What is, Michael, what's your favorite tech when it comes to film cinematography? What is your one thing that you love?
I love I love gear in general. I want to kind of preface that because gear is not the most important thing.
Yeah.
Like I come back to the story, I come back to the why and what we're doing and the art of it. But just personally, I enjoy it. Right.
Yeah.
So a big one is I like lenses. I love lighting because I told you, like I wanted to design lights and build them. I had whole circuit boards I'd soldered up myself to make all like multi-channel because I wanted like 9 channels of constant current because when lights, that's why lights flicker, by the way, is when they dim or when they convert from AC to DC because LEDs run on direct current. and our walls provide alternating current. And so if the circuitry that does that is kind of cheap, it just sort of lets some of the highs and lows sort of just go, right? And so you end up with the light flickering on and off, and your eye doesn't really notice, but it might give you a headache.
Yeah.
And the camera might not notice, but at certain frame rates or certain shutter speeds, it will. So I love lighting. I love shaping light. I love working with light. But I've really gotten into lenses too. The weird lenses that I use are kind of my signature. Like I said, I'm using right now. I'm filming this on a Hasselblad, and I actually have a set of those. Those are my cinema lenses, essentially.
Okay. Nice.
The downside is that the widest angle I have is a 50. But through the focal reducer, which is a critical piece of this, which was actually a fairly expensive piece, because it's just a metal tube, but it has a piece of glass in it, and that glass has to be good, or it's not gonna do the lens justice, right? You'll get it'll blur or whatever. So this glass had to be really good, but it takes all the light from what would normally be a 2¼ inches, that big, and it takes it down to the 35 millimeter full frame. Almost. I think it's like correcting 30%. It should be correcting 50. So I lose about 20%. But that means my 50 turns into a 35. And I'm on a 60 right now, and that turns into a 40.
Oh, okay.
And the other cool thing about that is these lenses aren't very bright. I think this is a 3.5.
Oh.
I have an 80 this was my favorite until I got the adapter. Because the 80 is a nice look, it's tight, it's good portrait lens. So I shot a lot of stuff on that, but it's a 2.8, so it's a little bit brighter. But the focal reducer also adds 30% more light. So the 2.8 turns into like a 1.9, which is now pretty decent. And the 4 turns into a 3 or a 2.8, and that's not bad either, you know what I mean? So so you get several advantages. And actually I even have those on, and I recommend them for these kinds of lenses, because this is a APC sensor. So it's a crop sensor, 30 Super 35, I think it's called. So my 50, or this is a 24, but I love the 51.8s, right? It's a cheap lens. Everybody should try a 51.8. Used to be able to get them for $50. I think they're 100 now, but Canon had them, Nikon, everybody had one. It would be an 80 almost on this camera, which is fine. But with the focal reducer, it's back to a 50. So it takes the 30% crop out.
Okay.
And then your 51.8 turns into a 1.3. And so now you got a pretty low light kind of monster there for $100, And what does the 51.4 cost? It's like $2,000. So if you have a crop sensor, get one of these adapters, and then the advantage there is I have one with the focal reducer and one without. So my 50 can become a 50, or my 50 can become an 80. And so now you have two sets of lenses that all come out of that same thing.
What brand do you recommend for the focal reducer?
I found that I bought the Viltrox just because it was cheap, and it's fine.
Okay.
I think it's there's a better brand, and I probably would buy that one if I had the money for that. And at the time, I just was kind of trying stuff, so I didn't really know that I'd love it or not. The big thing was the autofocus compatibility, and the weird thing was this adapter on this camera. My nice Canon L 70-200. I can take pictures, but as soon as I hit record, the camera crashes.
What?
Just they don't like each other, but the other
interface.
I don't know, just something with the programming didn't work. And I wish I remember the other brand, because there's a better brand. But I found that they were almost interchangeable. My buddy has the same one in a different brand. What is the my brain's not remembering what it is now. It's a really common brand for
Celestron, Venus, Metabones.
Metabones, that's the one everybody has. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I've used the Metabones, virtually interchangeable unless you found a lens it wasn't compatible with. Strangely enough, that adapter on my A7 IV with the 70-200 totally behaves fine. So who knows? But I think the one I'm using now is a Kippen Kippon, something like that. But there's only like 2 companies that make them, and that's the better one of the 2. But that's because it's for, they have Minolta, Konica Minolta, and the Pentax 645. And it's just some really interesting, really high quality. And these are Carl Zeiss lenses, is big thing. So the downside of these kinds of lenses is they're photo lenses. So the aperture clicks. There's a ring on the front that shuts your shutter speed on the lens. Pretty weird. It doesn't do anything. So there's just another ring there that you go to grab to adjust your aperture, and you're on the wrong thing. It doesn't do anything. There's a button that disables the aperture adjustment, so that if you'll go to change it, it won't do anything. So generally what I do is I use a follow focus, and so that I don't touch the lens. Yeah. So because the ergonomics are not, a cinema lens has nice rings on it, that, tooth rings. It has one for each thing. There's no stops. There's advantages, but I'm getting really, really similar image quality that I would get in a $10,000 lens, instead of, I think these are like maybe $1,000 or $2,000 used. So they're not cheap, but they're also not expensive. But they're weird bayonet mount, and they're, not something and I'm just a lot of, I just had them, they were my dad's from his cameras from doing weddings back in the day and commercial stuff. Wow. But it's actually the same lenses that they shot, I can't remember the name of it now. The nuclear movie about, what is the name of that? You know what I'm talking about? Pretty big. It was really, really big, popular amongst filmmakers about 6 months ago.
The Creator?
No, same time period.
Civil War?
No, it was about the nuclear experiments in.
Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer. So they shot Oppenheimer on the same lens that I'm using now.
Oh wow. Okay.
But what they did was, Ari buys the glass, and they repackage them, and these lenses end up being, 50. There's a lens that has similar glass. I think they're brighter, and it may just be the way they've repackaged them. They've made it's the same glass, but they're not necessarily, because I'm like, how are they making the same glass brighter, but they're getting like 1.8s instead of a 2.8? Okay. But some of those lenses are like $100,000. Yeah. And they go on to the Ari large format sensor, and you can't even buy those cameras. You have to rent them. Wow. Because they're like, $500,000 each, or they just don't sell them. They're like, we made 10, you can rent one. And so that's kind of cool. I get that same kind of look and quality on this kind of thing. And as soon as I kind of do, another 5 years of making money, I might have these repackaged into cinema, they will rehouse them. They'll take the whole lens apart and take the glass and put them in a different thing. That's cool. But the minor improvement to me is, for that might be $5,000 or $2,000 each or something. I don't know. But if you're moving quick, you got a big budget, a lot of people involved, it's worth it. Time's money. If it's like me and you've got a low budget, then it's $75 an hour. I can wait and play with the lens.
Yeah. What do you use for follow focus?
I just use a manual follow focus. I just picked up the cheapest thing I could find to kind of get my rig going. I think it's a small rig. It's fine. It's not great. The big thing was the rig that I put it into being rigid. So so I have it on a cage, and I have it coming off the top of the cage. Okay. And then so it has a little nano rail, and then it has a clamp. And then so I mount my handle to that. But it makes it so I can grab the handle and I can grab the camera out of my shoulder rig and run it handheld, and it still has the follow focus attached.
Okay. You're using a shoulder rig then?
I do. Yeah. I use several different rigs. I've gotten into that recently for events and things like that. And I've got it set up in a real modular way. Like I said, I enjoy gear. So I kind of have I was like, my buddy had an FS7, and I had borrowed that a few times, and it has a built-in, it may not have been built in, that size of a camera. It's a body that's this big. Okay. And but honestly, real similar quality wise to the an FX6 or an FX3 or something.
Okay, yeah.
It's also a crop sensor, but he had it set up on a Sharp brand, I think it was. I think they're called the VCT mount. And what it basically allows you to do is it has a pad in the middle, and then at each end, it's got, two little metal plates. And one of them has a little notch and the other one has, some other thing. And it allows you to take the whole thing off and put it on a tripod. And then you just slide it and it clicks.
Nice.
So when I saw that and I played with it and I used it, I was like, okay, that's what I want, because I want to be able to shoot on a tripod and then be like, okay, there's something going on over there. And I want to grab my camera and run over there. And so I built this rig essentially to do that, out of just the cheapest parts I could find that I knew were like small rig parts, off of eBay, and kind of cobbled this whole thing together. So I got hand grips, a monitor in front of me, and because the screens on these, they're for focus is not, it's it's not ideal. So I have a nice big 7-inch monitor, and but I have it connected, so there's a quick release on the monitor mount, and then there's a quick release that lives on top of my handle. It just stays up there the whole time, so that I can take the monitor off with one twist and pull the monitor off and put it right on top of the handle. And then below, I've got a plate between the cage and the plate that's the bottom of the shoulder rig, or the top. Everyone look at it. I added a separate plate that goes from Manfrotto to the RE. I can't remember because I call them the REs. That's the handles. Oh, I have the arms pulled off of it. So so I just added this little plate.
Yeah.
Right here.
Oh yeah.
It just screws onto, and this is compatible with the Manfrotto, whatever, 501. I think it's the same plate that would go to the DJI Ronin RS2 or 3. I think that also, so you can kind of slide the mount out. But the bottom of the small rig has this mount in it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's in focus or not. And so just adding that one little extra piece allowed me to I can reach up and go like that. And with one little twist, the whole camera comes off, and I can just put this down and then go handheld, or go back on this again. And then the bottom of this plate has these two connectors here.
Oh, okay.
I can't.
Oh, yeah.
So that the pad's in the middle, but essentially that and that are what locks in. And so that whole thing goes on top of the tripod and clicks in. So there's this quite large, just sort of flat thing that just lives on top of your tripod.
That's nice.
So, yeah, and, I think this would be a couple $1,000s, but I was able to kind of find all the little pieces used and kind of piece it together. So it was, maybe $500. The big thing for this is the V mount.
Right.
So that I
kind of got power.
Yeah, because this is the monitor I'm using. This thing sucks batteries. It just absolutely just destroys batteries. And then you end up with these huge, these aren't even huge, they're kind of medium. They last, 20 minutes or something. And then you got two of those and it's like heavy. So I run one little battery in there, and then I run a cable to the V mount that powers the camera and powers the monitor. So the only thing running off battery is, my microphone or something.
Yeah. What kind of, is it a Shinobi monitor?
It's a Atomos.
Yeah, but what? Because I have a Ninja 5 Atomos.
So this is a Ninja Flame.
Flame, okay.
Yeah, it's older. The only reason I have it is I borrowed it, the FS7 from my buddy.
Yeah.
I was shooting a Chamber of Commerce video and came by, and my tripod had fallen over, and somebody bumped it or something, and it fell over and hit my buddy's camera. So I call him up and I'm like, hey, thanks for loaning me your camera. So there's a little scratch in the camera, which you probably don't care about, but the screen on your monitor's broken.
Oh my God.
So I think I probably would have gotten a cheaper monitor if I had the choice, because there's a lot of options now. That thing was $2,000 when it was new. And I got it used for $500.
Wow.
I think I could have got it a little cheaper on eBay, but my buddy's like, don't, no, he's like, I was like, hey, this is up to you. It's yours. You're going to be living with this thing. He's like, buy a used one from B&H. They're certified used, whatever ones. And I'm like, okay, cool. $500. So it turned out the screen works, except for it has a crack. So that's the monitor I ended up with and started shooting with that one.
Yeah.
But the nice thing is that it takes the processing power off the camera because I'm actually recording on this.
Yeah.
Which also takes it from an MP4 to a ProRes file.
Yep.
Which I thought might improve the little camera. I don't think it does because it's still 8-bit.
Right.
But it consumes a lot of data. It also takes SD cards, which is kind of cool. No, I'm sorry. It takes solid state drives.
Right.
Oh, so this is what I film on.
Yeah. What brand?
Samsung.
Okay. I used Western Digital, which they said it wouldn't work, but it does.
It just has to be the right speed.
Right.
Yeah. And I think those have been replaced, but the card that's fast enough to go in the camera it's about double the price of these.
Yeah.
Because I was looking, I think actually it's about the same price for half the storage.
I believe it.
Because the data rate's a little bit higher. So you can't use the card that goes in this guy. It's only putting out, 100 megabit, and this is putting out 300.
Right.
So I need 300 megabytes per second for that one. And for this one, I only need 100. So I can use cheaper cards. So when you get the faster cards and they get bigger, they get really expensive. And these, and they're fast and they're cheap and they're, $50. You can get a 512 megabyte that does 500 megabytes a second instead of, 200 or 300. So I've been pretty happy with that. I just actually got a couple more of them because I only had 2 of them. But so that's how I normally shoot, unless I'm going handheld. Well, even then I'll have the monitor on there and record that way. Unless I'm going real light and want to just do the camera only. Oh, this thing's just sitting here. So here's my color checker.
Oh yeah.
So there's your normal color checker patches.
Okay.
I have had people say that they don't like how small this is. I found it to not be a big problem, that I just go and get closer.
Yeah.
Even if the lens is kind of wide. Now, maybe if I was like, I want to put the thing way back there and get under that light, but I want the camera over there, maybe I could see some reason, but I haven't run into that.
Yeah.
But the big thing is that with this, I have plugins for Premiere that allow me to put this in the scene, and then I can make custom LUTs instead of using pre-made LUTs.
Nice.
So I can make a LUT for this camera with a Canon lens, or that camera with a vintage lens, that will match the color of that camera with a Sony lens or whatever. I have learned that never takes into account that the contrast is different. So I do try to newer Canons maybe mixed with Sonys, but not a vintage mixed with whatever. Unless that's a purposeful choice. If you're like, oh, I want this to have a dreamy look and I want this to have like a realistic look. But you can at least fix the color. So like I'll hold one up to the GoPro when I've got one as a crash cam or whatever.
Yeah.
So then I can make them match the Sony, match whatever. And that's from my color science background. So I get kind of into that.
I need to learn. That's one of the things I got to learn is how to color grade. So it's good advice.
Yeah, and then here's the white. So you just flip that over and it's got a white section. So there's your color checker, and then the other side's the white. And that's the only side you use 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And then once you know your lights, you don't even pull that out until you're like, oh, it is mixing with this other one or whatever.
It's called a color card? Is that what it's called?
It is called a white balance card.
Okay.
Yeah, not gray. It's not a gray card because that's what a lot of people call it. It's a white balance card. It's the technical term for that. But yeah, everybody should have one of these and learn to use it. And then you probably won't use it that often once you know all your settings, but it will help you figure out your camera, because it's not, you have to, sometimes I have to lie to the camera. Or my 2 lights. I have a 100X that I'm using right now, but the other brand I was talking about, they're a 60 daylight. Well, they're both supposed to be 5500. But I found that in that softbox, that needs to be set to 56 to match the other one that's 55, but it's really 54 or whatever.
Yeah.
So with a tool like this or a spectrophotometer, or your camera, you can just put this thing down there and use auto and see what number it gives you.
Right.
And then you bring your other light over and you do the same thing and see what number it gives you. And so you can kind of reverse engineer what's going on by like looking at your tools and what they tell you.
What do you think about, like, I've been using the Blackmagic app on the iPhone to measure light. What do you think about that?
I haven't tried that. That's intriguing.
Okay.
The reason I haven't tried that is because I have the tools to do it.
You have the real tools.
I have the
professional things.
Yeah, so this is what I use for color, is this whole kit of is a spectrophotometer. So here's the actual unit. It's a USB device. This is an older one, but there wasn't enough improvements. This is my third one.
Wow.
Because as a business, every time I buy one of these things, it pays for itself in, a month.
Yeah.
But it has an ambient light head. So you take this and you put this piece on it.
Okay.
And then basically there's your light meter.
Yeah.
But instead of measuring red, green, and blue, or just like a normal light meter, it only just measure intensity. This is, imagine like if you had a prism and you had 100, maybe 600 little light meters all along laid in the row. And as the prism fell out, it would hit every single one of those. You had one at each little frequency.
Yeah.
So sometimes if you've looked at spectral graphs before, it was really interesting in science. I got really into this in high school science. That certain planets won't give off they'll only be like little lines on that graph. Or like if you burn a certain metal, it'll only give off these two different frequencies. So you can actually tell what a star is made out of from across the universe because of its spectral signature. And you can be like, oh, it's a helium giant or whatever. I don't know. I don't remember anymore. But this does the same kind of thing where you can then tell like, oh, that thing really has a lot of pink, or a lot of this certain color blue. And if you look at your print, you're like, oh my gosh, that thing also has that. And then all of a sudden these two prints won't match each other. These two fabrics that you want to match, or, your thing that's blue that turns green is because it happens to line up with that thing that makes it look green happens to not be in the light. And so that frequency is just gone and your brain's like, oh, it's blue. Or the camera thinks it's blue and your brain sees it as green.
Yeah.
So the easiest thing is to get good lights, and then you don't have to worry about that.
Right. That's why you own a business.
Kind of know all these sorts of things.
Yeah. What do you recommend when it comes to storing footage? Like you have your photographer, your cinematographer, you're bringing in all of this data. Do you have any recommendations when it comes to storage drives?
Yes. So I'm doing something I do a lot of weird things. Like, as you can kind of tell from like the equipment I'm using, I've used kind of unusual methods. So I'm not positive I would necessarily recommend this. I would probably say you need to invest in a decent redundant backup system.
Yeah. You
need to use the largest drives you can possibly get, and you need 2 of them for everything you do. Okay. That's my official advice.
Yeah.
My unofficial, what I have done is I have been buying just USB hard drives. I get fast ones. Not even unusually fast, just normal 3.25, 3.5 inch, like desktop. Actually, I've got them right here. I'll have 4 of these at a time.
Yep.
I connect them all to a separate port on my computer, and that's a big piece. So every one of them has its own USB or Thunderbolt drive port that it gets plugged into. Yeah. So no, these are not plugged into a hub. I have a dock for it's a MacBook Pro, so there's not anything weird, but I have a dock that it goes into.
Yeah.
And on that dock, there's a USB-C on the front, and there's a USB 3.1. Yeah, Western Digital. I think these were Seagate, and now I'm on Western Digital. The reason I don't recommend this is I currently have a 36 terabyte RAID server running.
Yeah.
and it 3 or 4 days ago decided and freaked out completely, and it is read only now. That's a really good question, because storage is a massive problem. I archive everything, and I don't recommend that. I keep everything I've ever shot for every client I've ever shot for. In my contracts, I would talk about copyright for a while. People need to understand that if you take a picture, you own that picture, unless you sign that picture rights off to someone else. Yeah. So people have been like, yeah, you were working for me, I own that. And I'm like, no, you own the thing I gave you, which was an edited video or a finished picture or something, but we didn't have a work for hire agreement, which would have given you rights to everything. Now, as an employee, that's a different thing. You have a contract with it as, it's an hourly employee.
Right.
If you have an idea for a product or something at work, they own it.
Yeah.
They own everything you produce when you're on the clock. But as an independent contractor, it's a different story. So understanding copyright law is an important thing. So in my contracts, I have a clause that says, I'm giving you unlimited access to this, but I own it. I don't care what it is. If it's just a picture of I'll never use it again. Just don't have to worry about it. I can be like, oh, somebody needs some pictures of families, or I want to use it in my portfolio or whatever. Right. So I keep everything, which is maybe not the best. Like there's advantages to just getting a project done and then deleting it and being like, hey, it's on you now. I'm not going to store that for you forever.
Yeah.
So that's one way of doing business, but I could definitely see is not saving things forever. But I kind of look at it as like I'm building a library of assets. Mm-hmm. So I think I was at 100,000, but that was 5 years ago. I'm probably at 200,000 separate files.
Wow.
On a 36 terabytes drive, which is actually 48 because there's one redundant one. Okay. And it's full now, and I've added several terabytes to external drives now, so I need to go up to like 48 or 50 terabytes. But yeah, 4K video, 10-bit RAW, ProRes, like all these things add up super fast. And then I use SoftRAID to combine those drives into a RAID 5. Mm-hmm. And the advantage there is each hard drive could do about 200 megabytes a second. But when you combine them, you get about 600 to 700 megabytes a second. Okay. So you're up to the SSD speeds.
Yeah.
On a spinning disk.
Yeah.
And
that's, I'm looking at like Synology is one of the brands that I keep on hearing pop up, and 60 terabytes is $2,000.
And I don't know that that's fast enough to edit off of.
Right. Only for storage.
Right. Now, some of them are, but is the connection, the Ethernet output, like I would ask some questions, because I think that should be more like 5 if it was editing one. Like I think that brand is like a good value. I don't think it's like cheap junk, but I also don't think it's expensive.
Right.
Like OWC or G-RAID from SanDisk, I think that would be it's $2,000 for like their 20 terabyte one. I'm currently in the market for those, so that's why I'm aware of all these prices.
That's because I've been looking as well, because I'm like, when it comes to editing, I get these little dealios.
Yep.
And just edit off of these, and then when I store stuff, it's like, okay, Western Digital, here we go.
Yeah. So I combine 4 of whatever drive I need to get to the size I need. I put one of them on every separate port. So you need an actual channel, a separate channel for each one, because if you combine those two, USB 3.1, which is what the cable, or 3.0, I don't think it's even 3.1. No, it can only do, 200. It maxes out. Okay. So if you put 2 of them on there, now your top speed is only, slightly more than if you had one of them. So they have to be on their own separate port, no hub involved. One of them goes through a hub, but it's the only one that lives on there with my mouse and keyboard and everything else.
Okay.
And then I use SoftRAID to combine them all, and it gives you this redundancy, because any drive can come unplugged, die, and you can just pull it, and you get 3, and you're still running.
Okay.
And the speed advantage, because then I don't have to do proxies. I don't have to put all my stuff onto one drive and then delete it and put it onto another place when I want to store it, and then copy it off when I want to edit it. It just makes my life easier. Now, is it cheaper? Is it safer? Is it better? No, but it has the advantages in other ways.
Right.
Where, it's a massive file, and I keep everything in one place, and it's all just, it takes a second longer to start up sometimes, because got to get them all up spinning. But once they're going, I'm going through 4K footage, multiple tracks. It doesn't even care. And
what kind of MacBook are you using?
Oh, it's a 20. It's the M1 Pro.
Okay.
But I've had people ask me this, and I think anything beyond 2020, the M1 is, as soon as they came out, I was able to do stuff I wasn't able to do the year before that.
How much RAM?
I've only got 16.
You doing all that with 16?
Yeah.
Holy smokes. Okay.
And the only time I ran into problems is right behind me here. I've got a, I don't even see that because I can't even focus it. This is a copy camera.
Huh.
It's probably out of focus, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I kind of don't want to mess with it. So it shoots a 200 gigabyte file. So I decided to take that into Photoshop and make a movie showing you how big the file was. So I zoomed all the way out, and then I zoomed in on some text.
Oh my gosh.
And Photoshop couldn't keep up. It would, because it started out as 2 gigabytes, and then it was like, the zooming. I was using Photoshop to make I tried in Premiere too, and it would drop frames. It would do weird things that I've never seen before.
Interesting.
And I was like, oh, I can't. I probably ran out of memory. It probably is like a, several terabyte scratch file or something.
No.
But yeah, for multiple, 2 or 3 channels of 4K video, Premiere. And I'm actually working on Resolve projects now because like the reality TV stuff and the TV pilot we did and the haircutting video that lady was doing, they edited them in Resolve and then gave them to me to do color.
Oh, okay. So
it's already in there. I'm not going to take it back and put it back. Right. And then, when I'm collaborating with other people, I do work in Resolve, and it doesn't seem to care. I think a lot of that is the fast drives. It doesn't, I make sure I have room on my hard drive inside the Mac.
Yeah.
And I would have gone, that was my only regret with this computer, is I would have gone with 32 gigs or something, maybe 60, whatever, but that was a custom order. So this computer was only like $2,100. It should have been 3, I think, but it was like an open box, got returned to Best Buy or whatever. I just kind of looked at the best thing I could get out there.
Nice.
And it wasn't the 8 that they came with stock. I was like, I can't deal with that because my 2012 Mac that I moved from had 16 gigs because I upgraded it. And I'm like, I'm seriously going down to 8? That's insane. And my girlfriend has the M1, very first one with 8, or maybe she has 16, or my parents had 8. And it's okay. It's actually not bad.
Interesting.
But but it's so like the power of the M processors is pretty crazy for video. Yeah, like it churns through it. Whereas the Intel, the top of the line Intels that I was working with before, I had a couple friends and a partner that had like the very last one, and they got an expensive one, and the fan on that thing was running like mad, and it would crash. And my little M1 Pro, like just chugging along, maybe if I export massive files, a whole bunch of them, I'll hear the fan kick on every once in a while.
Right. Yep.
But yeah, my girlfriend has the one that doesn't even have a fan, so it just slow down the processor.
Oh, like the Air.
Yeah, it's the same computer. It's the exact same computer with a fan added. Yeah. This one has the the chip in it, but the standard M1, which is the M2, they've just gotten better. But yeah, any of those and better are like the bang for your buck. There's pretty crazy,
right? I mean, they're up to M4 now. Michael Newman, how can people reach out to you? What's the best way?
My website is getreelllc.com. I'm GetReel LLC, GETREEL LLC. So that's 2 E's and 3 L's. But that's on every social media platform. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, pretty much everywhere.
And we will link everything in the show notes.
Yes, appreciate that.
Yeah. All right, Michael. Thank you so much.
It was awesome getting to know you, man.
Yeah, it's great getting to know you and hearing your stories.
Yeah, we'll have more next year probably.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, 2025 shaping up to be. I'm just kind of keep upping the game on all this stuff. Like the camera I'm using now, the lens I added in the last like 6 months, maybe the camera I've had for like a year.
Wow.
So it's keep upping the quality, and then also experience, and I'm doing a ton of marketing. So I'm like, things are starting to kind of fall into place where I'm like, okay, we're talking to networks now. And like, a year ago, I'm like trying to sell a little tiny video here or there. And so yeah, but a lot of it's been involved in the community. Like I really like, if you want to get into film and you think you need whatever, you don't. Grab your phone, get a friend, go make something. It's going to be terrible. That's okay. If you had the best equipment possible and you did it, it would also be terrible.
Yeah.
So It doesn't matter. The next one will be better.
Right.
And when you're like, man, I wish I could do X, Y, and Z with this device, and it can't do it. When it starts holding you back, that's when you try to upgrade your gear.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just go make stuff and learn until you're better than all your equipment and all the people around you. Then it's time for you to level up. But otherwise, there's room for you to grow.